Ruthless billionaire gave pregnant wife $10 a day after throwing her out to marry mistress.
Take your money. Don't touch her.
Don't touch her.
Get your hands off me.
Unaware, Victor Harrington stepped toward the microphone, ready to have security escort his pregnant ex-wife out of his company gala. But before he could speak, Maya raised one hand, and something in her stillness made every person in that ballroom freeze. Victor, I need you to sit down, because what I'm about to say will determine whether you still have a job tomorrow. Victor laughed, but his voice cracked. Employed? Maya, I own this company. I built this empire with my own hands while you sat at home doing nothing. Security, get her out of here before she embarrasses herself further. Maya did not move. She did not raise her voice. She simply opened the leather folder she had been carrying and said 7 words that made Victor Harrington's blood turn to ice. No, Victor. You license my family's technology. The room went silent. 400 guests stopped breathing. Victor's mother Constance, who had just finished a speech mocking Maya as a parasite who had attached herself to their family, gripped her champagne glass so hard it nearly shattered. Maya continued, her voice calm as death. Every algorithm your company runs on, every patent that powers your AI systems, every piece of technology that makes Harrington Industries worth anything at all, it belongs to Chun Quantum Technologies, my father's company, my inheritance, and those licenses expire at midnight tonight. She checked her watch. That gives you exactly 47 minutes to convince me why I should let your empire survive. How did a pregnant woman everyone dismissed as simple and powerless end up holding the strings to a billionaire's entire fortune? Why did she collect 93 $10 bills instead of fighting back immediately? And what made Victor Harrington believe he could throw away the one person who controlled everything he thought he owned? To understand how this satisfying moment of revenge came to be, we need to go back to the beginning. Back to when Maya Chin first made the mistake of believing that Victor Harrington was a man worth loving. 3 years before that gala, Maya Chan stood at the back of a technology conference in San Francisco, watching a man she had never met take the stage to thunderous applause. Victor Harrington was everything the business magazines said he was. Tall, commanding, radiating the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. He spoke about innovation and vision and building something that would outlast him, and the audience hung on every word like he was preaching gospel. Maya was there under a cover story her late father had arranged years earlier. As far as anyone knew, she was a junior researcher for a small consulting firm. Nobody important, nobody worth noticing. That was exactly how her father had wanted it. Zhang Chun had built a $3 trillion empire in silence, hiding his fortune behind 17 layers of shell corporations and trusts specifically designed to protect his only daughter from fortune hunters. He had seen too many wealthy families destroyed by people who married for money rather than love. So he created what he called the poverty test. Maya would live modestly, work ordinary jobs, and never access her inheritance until she turned 30 or had a child, whichever came first. If a man loves you when he thinks you have nothing, her father had told her before he died, then he loves you. If he only loves you when he discovers what you have, then he loves your money. The test will reveal the truth. Maya had accepted this arrangement because she trusted her father. She had no idea that the test would reveal something far darker than simple gold digging. She had no idea that the man walking toward her after his keynote speech would become both the greatest mistake of her life and the catalyst for her greatest triumph. Victor Harrington noticed Maya because she was not applauding. Everyone else in that conference hall was on their feet, clapping like their careers depended on it. But the woman in the simple blue dress near the back exit was just watching him with an expression he could not read. Not impressed, not starstruck. Just observing like she was taking notes on a specimen. It drove him crazy. You did not enjoy the presentation? Maya looked up at the billionaire who had somehow crossed an entire ballroom just to ask why she was not clapping. Most impressive display of ego I have seen this quarter. Victor blinked. Then he laughed, genuinely surprised. Ego? You spent 45 minutes talking about vision and innovation, Maya said, but you did not mention your engineering team once. You said I built this 14 times. I counted. So either you personally wrote every line of code and designed every algorithm, or you have a very flexible definition of the word built. Most people would have backtracked, apologized, worried about offending a billionaire. Maya simply waited for his response with the patience of someone who did not need anything from him. Victor was fascinated. Have dinner with me. I do not date men who cannot handle criticism. I can handle it. I am just not used to receiving it. That, Maya said, picking up her bag to leave, is exactly the problem. She walked away, and Victor Harrington, a man who had never been walked away from in his adult life, found himself completely obsessed with the woman who treated his billions like they were irrelevant. He pursued her for 3 months. Flowers she donated to hospitals. Gifts she returned unopened. Dinner invitations she declined until he showed up at the nonprofit where she volunteered and spent 8 hours sorting donated clothes beside her without once mentioning his company, his money, or his accomplishments. That night, she agreed to coffee. The courtship was everything Maya had hoped her father's test would reveal. Victor seemed different when they were alone. He asked about her childhood, her dreams, her opinions on things that had nothing to do with business. He laughed at her jokes. He remembered small details she mentioned weeks later. He treated her like a person rather than an acquisition. When he proposed after a year of dating, Maya said yes because she believed she had found what her father wanted for her. A man who loved her when he thought she had nothing. She was wrong. The first warning sign came at the wedding, though Maya did not recognize it at the time. Victor's mother, Constance Harrington, had requested a private moment with the bride before the ceremony. The older woman had looked Maya up and down like she was inspecting livestock. My son tells me you have no family money, no connections, no advanced degrees. Tell me, Maya, what exactly do you bring to this marriage besides your presence? Maya had smiled politely. I bring myself, Mrs. Harrington. I would hope that is enough. Constance had laughed. A cold, dismissive sound that Maya would hear hundreds of times over the next 3 years. How refreshingly naive. I suppose we will see how long that attitude lasts when you realize that being a Harrington wife requires more than just showing up. At the reception, Maya noticed that she was not wearing the Harrington family pearls. Every Harrington bride for 4 generations had worn them. When she asked Victor about it, he looked embarrassed. Mother said they were being cleaned. We will do photos with them later. The photos never happened. The pearls never appeared. And Maya filed away this small cruelty as the first entry in what would become a very long catalog of evidence. The marriage deteriorated so gradually that Maya almost did not notice it happening. The first year was good. Victor was attentive, present, proud of his wife who challenged him and made him think. But somewhere in the second year, things began to shift. Victor started working later, missing dinners, checking his phone during conversations with the distracted urgency of someone expecting important messages. When Maya asked what was wrong, he would snap at her. Not everything is about you, Maya. Some of us have actual responsibilities. Constance's cruelty became more pointed. At family dinners Maya was technically invited to but made to feel unwelcome. The older woman would make observations that sounded like compliments but drew blood. Maya, that dress is so brave. Not everyone could wear something so simple to a Harrington event. I love how you never worry about keeping up with conversations about business. It must be so relaxing to just listen. Your background is so interesting. Self-made people have a certain resilience that old money families often lack. Of course, resilience is usually just another word for not knowing any better. Victor never defended her. At first he would change the subject or make excuses later. By the 3rd year, he had started laughing along with his mother's jokes at Maya's expense. She is just old-fashioned, he would say when Maya confronted him. She does not mean anything by it. But Maya had been documenting everything. Every slight, every cruel comment, every moment when Victor chose his mother's approval over his wife's dignity. She did not know why she was doing it at first. She just knew that something was wrong, and she wanted a record in case she ever needed to prove it. Then she discovered she was pregnant. Maya had expected joy. She had expected Victor to sweep her into his arms and talk about nurseries and names and the future they would build together. Instead, she got a long pause and a question that told her everything she needed to know about where their marriage stood. "Is this really the right time?" Victor had asked, not looking at her. "The company is at a critical stage. A pregnancy is going to complicate things. Complicate things." Their child was a complication. Maya placed her hand on her stomach and felt something shift inside her. Not the baby. Something else. Some final hope that had been holding on despite everything. Finally letting go. She started paying closer attention after that. To Victor's late nights and distracted mornings. To the perfume on his collar that was not hers. To the texts he would read and smile at before quickly hiding his phone. And then she found the messages. Serena Blake had been hired as a consultant to streamline Harrington Industries' operations 8 months earlier. Her job was to identify which employees to fire to improve profit margins. But her texts to Victor had nothing to do with profit margins. "I cannot stop thinking about last night. When are you going to tell her? She does not deserve you. Your mother is right. Maya is holding you back. You need someone who matches your ambition." Maya read 3 months of messages in one sitting, her hand never leaving her pregnant belly. She learned that Victor had been sleeping with Serena since Maya's first trimester, that he had complained about her pregnancy nausea as inconvenient, that Constance had encouraged the affair, calling it a necessary correction to her son's youthful mistake. Most women would have confronted him immediately, screamed, thrown things, demanded explanations. Maya did none of those things. Instead, she screenshotted every message, forwarded them to a secure email address, and added them to the growing folder of evidence she had been compiling for 3 years. She did not know yet what she would use it for, but she knew, with the cold certainty of someone who has finally seen the truth clearly, that she would need it. The confrontation came 2 weeks later. Maya had asked Victor calmly if there was anything he wanted to tell her about Serena Blake. She gave him a chance to confess, to apologize, to show some fragment of the man she had married. Instead, he exploded. "You went through my phone? What kind of paranoid, controlling behavior is that? This is exactly what my mother warned me about. You have never trusted me. You have never supported my success. You just take and take and take while contributing nothing to this family. I am pregnant with your child, Victor. A child I did not ask for. A child you decided to have without considering what it would mean for my life, my company, my future." Maya absorbed this, added it to the catalog, and asked one final question. "Do you want me to leave?" Victor's answer would cost him everything, though he would not know it for another 93 days. "Yes. I want you to leave. You can have that apartment on the east side, the one we use for visiting executives. I will give you $10 a day for expenses. That should be more than enough for someone with your simple needs. My lawyers will be in touch about formalizing the separation." $10 a day for his pregnant wife, while he planned a wedding to his mistress that would cost more than most people earned in 5 years. Maya moved out that night. She took one suitcase and left behind 3 years of accumulated humiliation. Victor's security escorted her to the door like she was a trespasser rather than the woman who had shared his bed for 1,000 nights. Constance sent a single text message the next morning. "Finally, do not contact this family again." And Serena moved into the master bedroom before Maya's side of the closet was even cold. But here is what none of them knew. What none of them could possibly have imagined as they celebrated their victory over the simple woman who had never belonged in their world. Maya Chun was not simple. She was not powerless. And she was not defeated. She was waiting. In her small apartment on the east side, Maya spread the first $10 bill on her kitchen counter and photographed it with the date and time visible. She created a folder on her encrypted drive and labeled it evidence of character. Then she called the law firm her father had established to manage her inheritance and spoke to Richard Chun, no relation, the attorney who had been waiting for this call for 2 years. "Richard," Maya said, "I need you to tell me everything about the technology licenses between Chun Quantum Technologies and Harrington Industries. The attorney's response changed everything. "Mrs. Harrington, I have been waiting for you to ask that question. Your father suspected something like this might happen. He left very specific instructions for this scenario. Are you ready to hear them?" Maya placed her hand on her stomach, felt her baby kick, and smiled for the first time since discovering her husband's betrayal. "I am ready." What she learned in that phone call would become the foundation for the most devastating corporate reversal in modern history. Her father had been licensing foundational technology patents to Harrington Industries for 15 years at below-market rates because he believed in Victor's vision. Those licenses were structured to automatically renew every 5 years with Chun Quantum Technologies approval. The next renewal date was in 93 days. On Maya's 30th birthday, the same day her inheritance would finally become active. And without those licenses, every product Harrington Industries made, every algorithm they ran, every piece of technology that justified their $12 billion valuation would become worthless overnight. Victor Harrington had thrown away the one person who could save him, and he had given her 93 days to decide whether she would. The 93 days that followed were a masterclass in patience. Every morning at exactly 7:15, Victor's assistant would slide a $10 bill under Maya's apartment door. No knock, no acknowledgement, just the soft whisper of paper against carpet and retreating footsteps. Victor had instructed his staff to treat the delivery like paying a utility bill. Routine, impersonal, beneath notice. Maya collected each bill with the same ritual. She would photograph it against that day's newspaper to prove the date. She would add it to the silk pouch she kept in her bedroom drawer. And she would update the spreadsheet that documented every single act of calculated cruelty her husband performed while believing she was powerless to respond. But she was not idle during those 93 days. While Victor was planning his wedding to Serena, Maya was working 18-hour days with her legal team at Morrison Sterling International. They mapped every patent Chun Quantum Technologies held. They traced every license agreement with Harrington Industries. They calculated exactly how much of Victor's empire depended on technology he did not own and could not replicate. The answer was devastating. 94%. 94% of Harrington Industries' value came from products built on Chun patents. Without those licenses, Victor's company was not worth $12 billion. It was worth whatever someone would pay for office furniture and a famous name. Maya also learned something else during those 93 days. Something that transformed her anger into something colder and more strategic. Victor had been telling people she was mentally unstable. He told his board she had threatened him during the separation. He told investors that her pregnancy hormones had made her irrational and dangerous. He told Serena that Maya had tried to trap him with a baby he never wanted, and that he was the victim of a manipulative woman who had married him for his money. The irony was so thick Maya could taste it. The man who had married the secret heir to a $3 trillion fortune was telling everyone that she had married him for money. The man who gave his pregnant wife $10 a day while spending $50,000 on his mistress's monthly shopping allowance was positioning himself as the generous victim. Maya added every rumor to her evidence folder. Every lie, every distortion. She tracked the sources. She documented the spread. She built a case so comprehensive that no court, no board, no public opinion could ever side with Victor Harrington once the truth came out. And then she waited. Constance Harrington had outdone herself with the Spring Investor Gala. The Grand Meridian Hotel ballroom had been transformed into a temple of technological triumph. Holographic displays projected Harrington Industries' achievements across the walls. Champagne towers caught light from crystal chandeliers worth more than Maya's apartment building. 400 guests representing $50 billion in combined net worth circulated beneath banners proclaiming innovation through vision. Victor arrived at 8:15 with Serena on his arm. She was wearing the Harrington family pearls. The same pearls Constance had claimed were being cleaned on Maya's wedding day. The same pearls that had been denied to Maya for 3 years of marriage. They glowed against Serena's neck like a declaration of conquest. Constance greeted them at the entrance with genuine warmth, a warmth Maya had never once received. "You look perfect together," Constance said, kissing Serena's cheek like she was already family. "The pearls suit you." They never would have worked on someone with a less refined aesthetic. Serena smiled. Some women are meant to wear family heirlooms. Others are meant to admire them from a distance. They laughed together, bonded by their shared contempt for the woman they believed was sitting alone in a shabby apartment, defeated and forgotten. They had no idea that woman was already inside the ballroom. Maya had entered through the service entrance 30 minutes earlier, escorted by a junior executive named Derek who had once shown her kindness at a company event when no one else would speak to her. Derek did not know Maya's real identity. He did not know about the inheritance or the patents or the plan. He only knew that the pregnant woman who had been treated terribly by the Harrington family had asked for his help attending one last event, and he had said yes because he believed in basic human decency. He had no idea he was about to witness corporate history. Maya was seated at table 22, the table nearest the kitchen doors. The table reserved for people who were present but not important. Plus ones, minor vendors, background characters in the Harrington family's ongoing performance of their own greatness. She wore a simple black maternity dress that made her look elegant but not threatening. She carried a slim leather folder that contained the documents that would destroy an empire. And in her purse, wrapped in silk, were 93 $10 bills that represented 93 days of calculated humiliation. The clock on the wall read 8:47. Her birthday would arrive at midnight. She had 3 hours and 13 minutes to wait. The dinner proceeded exactly as Constance had choreographed it. 7 courses of food Maya did not touch. 3 speeches about Harrington Industries' vision that Maya had heard variations of for 3 years. Networking conversations she was not invited to join. Polite avoidance from executives who knew who she was and wanted no part of the social contamination that came from associating with Victor's discarded wife. At 9:45, Victor took the stage. He looked handsome in his custom tuxedo, confident in the way of men who have never faced real consequences. He smiled at the crowd like they were all his closest friends, and they smiled back because his money made them feel like they were. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. The applause was immediate and enthusiastic. Harrington Industries has always been about bold vision and strategic excellence. We do not just build technology. We build the future. And tonight, I am proud to announce that I am applying those same principles to my personal life. He paused for effect. The room leaned forward. 6 months ago, I had the courage to end a relationship that was not serving my highest purpose. It was difficult. It was painful. But great leaders know when to cut losses and move forward. Maya watched from table 22, her hands folded over her stomach, her face revealing nothing. Tonight, I am delighted to announce my engagement to a woman who truly understands partnership, ambition, and excellence. A woman who matches my vision and elevates my purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating my fiancée, Miss Serena Blake. Serena rose from the head table, radiant in her designer gown and stolen pearls. She joined Victor on stage to thunderous applause. They kissed for the cameras. They held hands like the power couple they believed themselves to be. At table 22, Derek glanced at Maya with visible discomfort. He had finally put together who she was. "Are you okay?" he whispered. Maya smiled. "I am exactly where I need to be." Constance took the stage at 10:15, microphone in hand, prepared to deliver the speech she had been crafting for months. She wore a gown that cost more than most people's annual salary. Her jewelry was museum quality. Her posture radiated the absolute certainty of a woman who had never been contradicted in a public setting. For 3 generations, the Harrington name has stood for excellence, legacy, and proper judgment. Her voice carried perfectly across the silent ballroom. "My late husband built this company on the principle that the right partnerships elevate us while the wrong ones teach us lessons we would rather not repeat." She paused, her eyes scanning the room with practiced theatrical timing. "Recently, our family made a necessary correction. My son showed the wisdom to recognize when a relationship was based on circumstance rather than genuine compatibility. When a partnership was taking rather than giving. When a wife was a weight rather than a wing." The audience shifted uncomfortably. This was more pointed than the usual corporate speech. Constance continued, warming to her cruelty. Some women enter families to contribute. Others enter to extract. Some women understand that marriage to a Harrington comes with responsibilities, standards, expectations. Others simply attach themselves like parasites and hope no one notices they add nothing of value. She smiled toward the head table where Serena sat glowing. I am proud to say my son finally found a woman worthy of our name. A woman of ambition, sophistication, and genuine partnership. Not someone who mistakes a wedding ring for an achievement. Then Constance did something she would regret for the rest of her life. She looked toward table 22. Oh my! Her voice dripped with theatrical surprise. It seems we have an uninvited guest this evening. Maya, dear, I am surprised you could afford the entrance fee. Though I suppose $10 does go further for people with simpler needs. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. 400 people turned to locate the target of Constance's attack. Maya sat motionless, hands on her belly, face unreadable. Constance pressed her advantage, intoxicated by the power of public humiliation. Tell me, Maya, how does it feel to watch your replacement wearing the family pearls you were never good enough to touch? How does it feel to know that your presence at the back of this room, near the kitchen where you probably belong, is the perfect metaphor for your entire marriage? You were never really part of this family. You were just someone my son settled for until he found someone better. The cruelty hung in the air like poison. Victor watched from the stage, making no move to stop his mother. Serena smiled like she was watching a competitor get eliminated from a game. Board members studied their phones to avoid eye contact. Executives calculated whether defending Maya would cost them their careers and decided it would. No one spoke. No one intervened. No one expected what happened next. Maya-chan rose from her seat with the slow, deliberate grace of someone who has been waiting for exactly this moment. She placed one hand on her pregnant stomach. She picked up her leather folder, and she began walking toward the stage. Not rushing, not emotional, just walking with the unhurried confidence of a woman who knew she owned every molecule of air in that room. Security stepped forward, but something in Maya's bearing made them hesitate. Constance laughed into the microphone. Oh, she is coming to defend herself. This should be entertaining. What are you going to do, Maya? Cry? Beg? Tell us all how unfair we have been to you? Maya reached the stage stairs and climbed them one at a time, her heels clicking against the wood in the absolute silence of the ballroom. She stopped 3 feet from Constance. She did not reach for the microphone. She did not need to. When she spoke, her voice was soft but somehow carried to every corner of that cavernous space. 400 people held their breath to hear her. Constance, you asked how I could afford to be here tonight. That is a fair question. Let me answer it. She opened her leather folder and removed the silk pouch. For the past 93 days, your son has given me $10 each morning. He called it generous. He told Serena it was more than I deserved. He documented it to prove to courts that he was supporting his pregnant wife. She untied the silk pouch and poured 93 bills onto the stage floor. I saved every single one. Not because I needed them. I never needed them. But because I was documenting exactly who Victor Harrington becomes when he believes someone is powerless. She gestured to the bills scattered at her feet. This is his character. This is who he is when he thinks no one important is watching. Victor stepped forward, face reddening. Maya, this is pathetic. You are embarrassing yourself and everyone here. Security, escort her out immediately. Maya raised one hand. Victor froze. Something in her stillness, something in the absolute calm of her expression, made every person in that ballroom understand that the balance of power had just shifted in a direction none of them had anticipated. Victor, I am going to need you to sit down, because what I am about to explain will determine whether you have a job tomorrow. Victor laughed, but it came out strangled. Employed? I own this company. I built this empire from nothing while you contributed nothing to this family. Maya reached into her folder and removed a document. You licensed the technology that powers this company. Every artificial intelligence algorithm Harrington Industries uses. Every quantum processing patent that makes your products functional. Every piece of core technology that justifies your $12 billion valuation. It all belongs to Chun Quantum Technologies. The name landed like a bomb. Board members who had been pretending to check their phones looked up sharply. The CFO went pale. Legal counsel began frantically texting. Maya continued. Chun Quantum Technologies was founded by my father, Zhang Chun. He built a $3 trillion empire in silence and hid my inheritance to protect me from fortune hunters. Men who would marry me for money rather than love. Men exactly like you, Victor. She checked her watch. As of midnight tonight, my 30th birthday, I assume full control of Chun Quantum Technologies and all its assets. That includes every patent powering this company, this building which we own, and the licensing agreements that allow Harrington Industries to function. She looked at Victor with something that might have been pity. Those licenses expire at midnight. You have 43 minutes to convince me why I should renew them. The silence that followed was unlike anything that ballroom had ever contained. 400 people processing the impossible. The pregnant woman in the simple black dress, the woman they had watched get humiliated for 3 years, the woman Constance had just called a parasite, was actually the person who controlled whether any of them would have jobs next month. Victor's voice cracked. That is impossible. We vetted Chun Quantum Technologies. We have worked with them for 15 years. They are owned by anonymous holding companies. There is no connection to you. My father structured it that way specifically to protect me from men like you. Maya's voice remained steady. He wanted me to find someone who loved me when they thought I had nothing. You failed that test, Victor. Spectacularly. She turned to Constance, who had gone gray. You spent 3 years calling me simple. Limited. Parasite. You told your son to correct his mistake before it produced children. You denied me the family pearls because I was not good enough to wear them. Maya gestured to Serena, who was clutching those same pearls with white-knuckled fingers. You gave them to your son's mistress instead. A woman who helped him betray his pregnant wife. A woman who sent him texts about how I did not deserve him while I was in my first trimester. A woman who moved into my bedroom the same night I was thrown out. She returned her attention to Constance. Your advisory role in this company ends tonight. Assuming the company survives at all. Constance opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. For the first time in 4 decades, she had nothing to say. Maya turned to Serena. You wanted the Harrington fortune. Congratulations. You won it. But the fortune was never really the Harringtons to give. It was built on my family's technology, and I am reclaiming it. She paused. You have a choice. Stay with the man you won, now that you know what he is actually worth. Or do what we both know you are going to do. Serena's hands moved to the pearls around her neck. She looked at Victor. She looked at Maya. She looked at the room full of investors who were already calculating their losses. Then she unclasped the pearls, placed them on the nearest table, and walked toward the exit without a single word. Victor watched her go and did not call after her. He was beginning to understand. Maya addressed the room. Harrington Industries can survive, but only if it earns that survival. Starting tomorrow, Victor Harrington will receive $10 per day, deposited into an account I control. He will experience exactly the generosity he showed me. She looked at her ex-husband with something that was not quite hatred and not quite forgiveness. Every employee who treated people with dignity keeps their job. Every executive who laughed at Constance's jokes about me can update their resumes. The new majority shareholder believes that companies should reflect the character of their leadership. We are about to find out what this company's character actually is. She gathered the 93 bills from the stage floor and returned them to her silk pouch. She closed her leather folder. She placed one hand on her pregnant belly, and she delivered her final words to the room. My father taught me that you learn someone's true character not by how they treat the powerful, but by how they treat those they believe are powerless. Tonight, everyone in this room learned what the Harrington family's character really looks like. The question now is, what does yours look like? Maya walked off the stage with the same unhurried grace that had carried her up. She passed Victor, who stood frozen in the wreckage of his assumptions. She passed Constance, who had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. She passed 400 witnesses who would spend the rest of their lives telling the story of the night they watched a pregnant woman in a simple black dress destroy a billionaire with nothing but patience and documentation. At the ballroom doors, Derek waited with her coat. "That was incredible," he whispered. Maya smiled. "That was overdue." She stepped into the night air and placed both hands on her stomach. Her daughter kicked right on cue. Behind her, the Harrington family empire was already beginning its collapse. Board members were calling emergency sessions. Investors were demanding explanations. Legal teams were scrambling to understand how 93 days of $10 bills had somehow led to the complete restructuring of a $12 billion company. And Victor Harrington stood alone on the stage where he had announced his engagement, finally understanding the magnitude of trading his pregnant wife for $10 a day. The most expensive mistake of his life had cost him exactly $930. 8 months later, Maya Chun stood in the executive suite of Chun Harrington Technologies, with her daughter Lily sleeping in the nursery that adjoined her office. The merger had been completed quietly. Harrington Industries had been absorbed into her family's empire in a deal that preserved jobs, protected innovation, and erased the Harrington name from everything except history books and cautionary tales. The 93 $10 bills were framed on her wall, mounted behind glass with a small plaque that read evidence of character. Victor worked 3 floors below her now. He had accepted the conditional position after experiencing his own 93 days at $10 daily. He earned a modest salary. He lived in a modest apartment. He had supervised visits with Lily twice monthly. But something unexpected had happened during his humiliation. He had started to change. Not for Maya. That relationship was beyond repair. But for Lily. For the daughter he had once called a complication. He had written Maya 47 letters during those 93 days. None asked for forgiveness. All documented moments when he had chosen differently than the man he used to be. He had donated the Harrington mansion to a domestic abuse shelter. He volunteered there on weekends. He was learning to see people he would have once ignored. Maya did not trust him. She might never trust him. But she documented his growth the same way she had documented his cruelty, because evidence worked both ways. Constance had disappeared to a small condo in Arizona. No social circle, no advisory role, no power. Her legendary cruelty was now legendary only as a warning about what happens when you build your identity on making others feel small. Maya sent her photos of Lily. No response ever came. Maya sent them anyway, documenting the grandmother Constance was choosing not to become. Serena had married another wealthy man in California. That marriage had lasted 8 months. She was on her 3rd engagement now, still searching for security in someone else's bank account rather than building her own. Maya saw her occasionally in tabloids and felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, just the quiet awareness that some people refused to learn lessons no matter how clearly life taught them. The company thrived under Maya's leadership. Employee satisfaction had tripled. The culture of cruelty that Constance had built was systematically dismantled. Executives were evaluated partly on how they treated the most junior employees. The annual gala now included an award for character in leadership. And every year, Maya told the story of the 93 $10 bills to new employees during orientation. Not to humiliate her ex-husband, but to teach a lesson about power, patience, and the catastrophic cost of underestimating quiet people. If you have stayed with this story until now, you understand something important about patience and justice and the power of documenting truth. If these stories matter to you, subscribe to this channel so you never miss another one. We tell stories about people who were underestimated and how they turned that underestimation into unstoppable power. On her daughter's 1st birthday, Maya stood at the window of her office watching the sunset paint the city in gold. Lily was awake now, making the small sounds of a baby discovering the world was safe and warm. Maya lifted her daughter to see the view. "Your grandfather built an empire and hid it from the world so no one would want me for my money. He wanted me to be loved for who I was. And he wanted me to see clearly who was doing the loving. She looked at the framed bills on her wall. Your father failed that test. He showed me exactly who he was when he thought I had nothing. Lily grabbed at the light coming through the window, delighted by something as simple as sunset. Maya whispered the words her own father had whispered to her years ago. Remember this, little one. The people who underestimate you are giving you power they do not know they are giving. The ones who dismiss you are blind to the threat you might become. And the ones who treat you as worthless when they think no one is watching are writing the story of their own destruction. She kissed her daughter's forehead. Your worth will never be determined by how others value you. It is determined by how you value yourself enough to wait, to document, to reveal truth at exactly the right moment. Sometimes the person everyone overlooks is actually the one holding all the cards. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Until the moment when doing everything changes the world. Outside the window, the city that had once dismissed Maya Chan as a simple woman who had married above her station now bore her family's name on 17 different buildings. The Harrington name survived only in archives and corporate restructuring case studies. And somewhere in Arizona, an old woman who had spent her life treating people as beneath her was finally learning what it felt like to be beneath everyone's notice. Maya watched the last light fade from the sky and held her daughter close. Character is destiny, she said softly. Document everything. Trust slowly. And never let anyone convince you that your silence means weakness. She smiled. Sometimes silence is the sword, and patience is how you sharpen it.